This afternoon, the suspect in the Idaho students' murders case will be back in court. Bryan Kohberger. This comes 24 hours after prosecutors announced plans to seek the death penalty against him in this case. Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of murder in the deaths of those 4 students in November of last year. The judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. I want to welcome in Joshua Ritter, now criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor, host of the True Crime Daily Sidebar podcast. Joshua, as always, thank you. I want to walk through these aggravated circumstances for our audience. This is what the prosecution said led to their decision to seek the death penalty. More than one murder was committed during the crime. It was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, showed exceptional depravity. The defendant showed utter disregard for human life. It was committed in perpetration of a burglary or another crime, and the defendant shows a propensity to commit murder and is likely a continued threat to society. Does any of this come as a surprise that the prosecutors use these as factors to come to this conclusion?
Absolutely not. If you've been following this case closely, this doesn't come as a surprise at all. Idaho is one of the states that still has the death penalty on the books, and there's still a state that will pursue it and will actively prosecute people and ask for that at sentencing. So if you're going to look for a candidate for a case for the greatest punishment that we have in this country, this certainly falls squarely within that. And they found several aggravating factors that apply to this case. You outlined them all there, but the ones that really stand out to me are talking about multiple murders, exceptional depravity, and committed in the course of a burglary. Even 1 or 2 of those sometimes leads to prosecutors seeking the death penalty. But in a case like this, where you have several factors, 5 in total, it's not a surprise at all.
So how do you expect the defense to respond? They need to come up with mitigating factors and present that to the judge. What happens in court today?
Their opportunity to have presented those factors to the prosecution has already passed. As outlined in that notice by the prosecution, they said that they haven't received anything. If they did receive anything from the defense, it wasn't enough to persuade them that a jury wouldn't likely result in a verdict of death if this case goes that far. So what will happen in court today is they're going to argue a little bit about discovery. I know that the defense is still seeking some documents and other materials from the grand jury indictment, but then they're likely going to set this for trial. With the death penalty now on the table, I imagine things are going to take a lot longer.
And pardon me, go ahead, Joshua.
No, sorry, just given the seriousness of it, they're going to take their time.
Okay, and what I was going to ask is, how does a death penalty case change, right? What are some of the things that the jury will have to consider when they come to a verdict?
Well, it's going to change jury selection dramatically, because what they'll need is what they call a death penalty qualified jury. So every single one of those jurors will be asked the question whether or not, if they felt that the aggravating circumstances were appropriate for this case, could they come back with a verdict of guilty? Each one of them will be asked that question individually, and they have to be able to say that, yes, if the circumstances are right, they could vote for death. That takes a lot more time to individually go through each person like that. And it also leads to a far more kind of conservative leaning jury, because these are all people who have said that they're willing to invoke the death penalty if they feel that it's appropriate. That falls in the favor of the prosecution and is something the defense is going to be concerned with.
Based on what we know, and the defense has argued that we don't have all of the details of the evidence the prosecution has, we'll wait for trial. But of the evidence that they have shared, DNA at the crime scene, his phone pinging near the crime scene, and also his car spotted there, what is the most damning and compelling evidence that the prosecution has so far publicly released?
The investigation did a remarkable job of working this case up. When we saw that affidavit first released, I was really impressed by the work that they had done, obviously with the cell towers and understanding that he had turned his phone off conveniently during the commission of the crime, the location of his vehicle. But really, it all comes down to that DNA. The fact that his DNA, or they were able to now tie it to him, was found on that sheath of a knife that was at the murder scene. That really is of all the other evidence that the defense may be able to poke holes into, that is the one piece of evidence that I think is going to carry the day in this case.
We have only heard a word here and there from Bryan Kohberger in court, yes and no answers to questions from the judge. Do you expect in a case like this, where he has pled not guilty, for him to testify? What will that conversation be between he and his attorneys?
That's always a $1 million question. His attorneys are going to advise against it, of course, because it just never it weighs in favor of the defense. You really, as a defendant, have to be able to just pull off a remarkable feat to stand up under cross-examination and testify on your own behalf. But the thing about that is all the decisions, all the strategy decisions that the defense attorneys may make themselves, the one decision they cannot make is whether or not he testifies. And if he decides that he's the type of person that we're now learning more about, perhaps has some narcissistic tendencies, if he wants to testify, then he has that right, and he can go ahead and take the stand.
And finally, Joshua, the judge will continue to allow cameras inside the courtroom despite the defense's opposition to that. Why might that be important? I mean, not so much for the jury, but for the public who has followed this case so closely.
Yeah, for exactly what you point out. People are just following this case so closely, and I think it's better to have transparency. The less cameras, the more that there's speculation that starts to arise. People begin to, conspiracy theories begin to swirl around. We have an open court system in this country. It's one of the things that makes the judicial system that we have in this country so remarkable. So the fact that cameras will be allowed in, I think, will just add a layer of transparency and openness that's welcome in a case of this much media attention.
There is, though, still a clarified gag order in the case. Journalists can interview family members, but not attorneys in the case. Cameras will be allowed for now. Joshua Ritter, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
And Bryan Kohberger will be in court later today. NewsNation will be following that.